The man had never felt peace like this before, and that terrified him more than anything else ever had. He was lying in the therapist's chair with his eyes closed and his body completely relaxed, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere that felt impossible. Somewhere that felt like the deepest truth he had ever touched. And in that place, he was watching souls being born. Not human birth. Not the kind where a baby takes its first breath. Something else. Something before that. Something so pure and new and fragile that he could barely find words for it, even in his own thoughts. He had come to this regression session expecting to see a past life. Maybe ancient Egypt. Maybe a war. Maybe something dramatic that would explain his fear of water or his strange attraction to old buildings. He had not expected this. He had not expected to witness the beginning of everything. The session had started normally enough. Dr. Patricia had guided him into relaxation, had counted him down through layers of consciousness, had asked him to go back to a significant memory from another time, but instead of landing in a past life, he had drifted somewhere else, somewhere between, somewhere that existed outside of time and bodies and the normal rules of existence. And now he was here, in a place he would later call the nursery, watching something that humans were not supposed to see. Dr. Patricia's voice floated through the space like a distant echo. Tell me what you're experiencing. Where are you? The man struggled to find language. I'm in a place that's made of light, but it's not just light. It's more than that. It's energy. It's potential. It's everything that could be but isn't yet. And there are beings here. Not people. Not humans. Something else. What do they look like? They don't have shape exactly. They're more like spheres of energy, glowing, pulsing. Some are brighter than others. Some are so faint I can barely see them. What are they doing? The man paused. They're being cared for. There are others here. Older ones, wiser ones. They're tending to the new ones, nurturing them, helping them grow. Dr. Patricia's voice remained calm. Are you one of the new ones? No, I'm older. I've been through this process before. Many times. I'm here as an observer, or maybe a helper. I'm not sure. But I'm allowed to be here. I'm allowed to see this. What is this place? The man listened to the knowing that arose within him. It's where souls begin, where they first come into being, before they ever enter a body, before they ever experience physical life. This is the beginning, the nursery, where consciousness first learns to be conscious. He watched as the beings of light moved among the new souls. They were so gentle, so patient. The new souls were fragile. Some barely held their form. They flickered like candles in wind. The older beings surrounded them with energy, with love, with something that felt like teaching but without words. The new souls absorbed it, grew a little brighter, became a little more stable. It was the most beautiful thing the man had ever witnessed, and it was happening constantly. New souls forming, being tended, growing, learning to exist. Dr. Patricia asked another question. Can you communicate with any of the beings there? The man focused his attention on one of the caretakers, a being that felt ancient, powerful, but also infinitely kind. Yes, there's one, an elder. Can you ask them what happens here? Why does this place exist? The man asked without words, just by directing his intention. The elder responded in the same way, through waves of understanding that filled his awareness. This is where all souls begin. The elder communicated. No soul exists at the beginning of time. All souls are created, formed, brought into being. Some are very old now, have lived thousands of lives, have evolved and grown and become wise. But all of them started here, in this nursery, as new energy, as pure potential, learning the basics of existence. The man absorbed this information. It contradicted what he thought he knew. He had always imagined souls as eternal, always existing, but this elder was showing him something different. Souls had a beginning. They were created, and this was where it happened. How are they created? The man asked. The elder's response filled his mind. They emerge from Source, from the infinite creative force that underlies all existence. Source is constantly creating, constantly bringing new consciousness into being. These new souls are expressions of Source, pieces of the infinite experiencing itself. They start small, simple, barely aware, but they have the potential to grow, to evolve, to become vast and wise and powerful. The man felt tears forming in his physical body, even though his consciousness was far away. And you care for them. We guide them, the elder communicated. We teach them the basics: how to maintain their energy, how to stay cohesive, how to interact with other consciousness, how to begin understanding love. It takes time. Some learn quickly, some take longer, but all of them eventually grow strong enough to begin their journey. What journey? The man asked. The elder showed him, images and understanding flowing directly into his awareness. Once a soul is strong enough, it leaves the nursery, it joins a soul group, a family of other souls at similar stages of development. Together they begin to explore, to learn, to experience. Eventually, they incarnate. They enter physical bodies on various worlds. Earth is one of many. They live lives, experience joy and pain and love and loss. Each life teaches them something, adds to their growth, helps them evolve. And between lives they return to their soul group. They process what they learned. They rest. They prepare for the next incarnation. This cycle continues for as long as the soul needs it. The man watched as one of the new souls grew bright enough to leave the nursery. An elder guided it away toward another space, another level. The beginning of its journey into the complexities of existence. How long does a soul stay in the nursery? The man asked. The elder's response was gentle. There is no time here. Not in the way you understand it. Some souls achieve stability quickly, others require more nurturing, but all are given what they need. None are rushed. None are abandoned. We stay with them until they are ready. Dr. Patricia's voice broke through again. Ask if you have a connection to this place. Why are you being shown this? The man asked the elder. The response came with a feeling of warmth, a feeling of recognition. You are here because you volunteered to remember. Because in your current life you are struggling with questions of purpose and meaning. You feel lost. You feel like you do not matter. So we are showing you the truth. Showing you where all souls begin. Showing you that every consciousness, no matter how small or new or uncertain, is precious, is cared for, is part of an infinite process of creation and growth. You matter because you exist, because Source created you, because you are an expression of the divine experiencing itself. The man in the chair felt his chest tighten. His whole life he had struggled with feeling worthless, with feeling like he didn't belong, with feeling like he was a mistake or an accident or something that shouldn't exist. And now he was being shown the care and love that went into the formation of every single soul. He was being shown that nothing about consciousness was accidental, that every soul was deliberately created, deliberately nurtured, deliberately guided. He was being shown that he mattered simply because he was. The elder continued. You asked to see this before you incarnated into your current life. You knew you would struggle with these feelings. You knew you would need proof that you were valued, that you were loved, that you were important. So we agreed to give you this memory, to let you access it when the time was right, when you were ready to receive it. That time is now. The man could barely process what he was hearing. So I chose to remember this. In a way, your higher self made an agreement with us that if you reached a point of deep despair in your current life, if you were ready to give up, we would show you this place, show you the truth of your origin, show you that you are loved beyond measure. And we are keeping that agreement now. Dr. Patricia's voice was soft. Is there anything else you need to see or understand while you're there? The man looked around the nursery one more time. He watched the new souls being tended. He watched the elders moving with such patience and care. He watched the constant creation, the constant nurturing, the constant love, and he understood something profound. Every human being on earth had started here. Every difficult person he had ever met, every kind person, every stranger on the street, every celebrity, every homeless person, every leader and follower, and everyone in between. They had all been in this nursery once. They had all been fragile new energy being cared for by these ancient wise beings. They had all been precious. They had all mattered. The anger he carried toward certain people in his life began to soften. How could he hate someone who had once been a brand new soul in a nursery? How could he judge anyone when he understood they were on their own journey of growth? How could he dismiss anyone as worthless when he had just witnessed the care and intention that went into creating every single consciousness? He couldn't. The perspective was too vast. The truth was too clear. Everyone mattered. Everyone was on a journey. Everyone deserved compassion. The elder communicated one more thing. You will forget much of this when you return to your physical consciousness. The details will fade. The clarity will dim. But the knowing will remain. Deep in your core, In your heart, in your soul, you will know that you matter, that you are loved, that you are exactly where you need to be in your journey. And when you doubt, when you struggle, when you feel lost, close your eyes and remember this place. Remember the light. Remember the care. Remember that you were created with intention and love. Remember that you are precious. Dr. Patricia began the return process. It's time to come back now. Back to your body. Back to this room. Back to this moment. Bring with you everything you learned, everything you saw, everything you felt. When I count to 3, you will open your eyes feeling peaceful and clear and connected to your purpose. 1, 2, 3. The man opened his eyes. The room looked exactly the same, but he felt completely different. He sat up slowly. His body felt heavy after being so light. Dr. Patricia was watching him with a knowing expression. What did you experience? She asked. The man struggled to find words. I saw where souls are born, where they begin. Before they ever enter bodies, there's a place, a nursery, where new consciousness is created and cared for. Dr. Patricia nodded. She had heard similar stories before, but each one still moved her. What did it mean to you? What did you learn? The man's voice broke. I learned that I matter, that I've always mattered, that I was created on purpose, that I'm not an accident or a mistake, that I'm loved, that I'm part of something so much bigger than I ever imagined. Dr. Patricia smiled gently. And how does that change things for you? The man thought about it. Everything. It changes everything. I can't see people the same way anymore. I can't see myself the same way. We're all on this journey together. We all started in the same place. We're all trying to grow and learn and evolve. How can I judge anyone when I understand that? How can I hate myself when I know I was created with love? Over the following weeks, the man's life began to shift in subtle but profound ways. He stopped being so hard on himself. When he made mistakes, he treated himself with more compassion. When he failed at something, he saw it as part of his learning process, rather than proof of his worthlessness. When he looked in the mirror, he saw someone who mattered, someone who was on a journey, someone who was exactly where they needed to be. His relationships changed too. He had less patience for people who were cruel or unkind. Not because he judged them, but because he understood they had forgotten their own origin. They had forgotten they were created with love. They had forgotten they mattered, and that forgetting caused them to hurt others. He had compassion for them, but he also had boundaries. He could love them from a distance while protecting his own energy. His relationship with his family improved dramatically. For years he had felt like the black sheep, the one who didn't fit, the one who was different. But now he understood that everyone in his family was on their own journey. Everyone was learning their own lessons. His parents had done the best they could with the level of awareness they had. His siblings were working through their own struggles. Instead of expecting them to understand him or validate him, he simply accepted them as they were, fellow souls on the path, fellow travelers trying to figure it out. His work became more meaningful too. He had been going through the motions for years, showing up, doing what was required, but not really caring. Now he understood that every interaction mattered, every customer he helped, every colleague he spoke with, every small task he completed. It was all part of his journey, all part of his growth, all part of his contribution to the whole. He started showing up differently, more present, more engaged, more willing to be helpful and kind. But the biggest change was internal. The constant voice in his head that told him he wasn't good enough, that told him he was worthless, that told him he should just give up, that voice grew quieter. It didn't disappear completely. Old patterns don't vanish overnight, but it lost its power. Because now when it spoke, he could counter it with truth, with memory, with the knowing that he had been shown something real and important. He would close his eyes and remember the light, remember the nursery, remember the care, and the voice would fade. He went back to see Dr. Patricia several times over the next few months, not for more regression sessions, just to talk, to process, to make sense of what he had experienced. She helped him understand that what he had seen was rare, that not everyone was shown the nursery, that it took a certain level of readiness, a certain desperation perhaps, or maybe a certain purpose. You were meant to see it, she told him. Your higher self knew you needed that perspective, that proof, that reminder, and now you carry that knowledge. That's a gift. And a responsibility. What responsibility? He asked. To remember, she said. To share when appropriate. To live from that understanding. You've been shown one of the deepest truths of existence, that all consciousness is created with love, that all souls are precious, that everyone is on a journey. You can't unknow that now. So the question is, what will you do with it? How will you live differently? How will you treat yourself and others? How will you honor what you were shown? The man took that question seriously. He started writing about his experience, not to publish or share publicly, just for himself, to capture the details before they faded, to record the feelings and insights and understanding. He filled notebooks with his reflections, his questions, his attempts to integrate what he had learned into his daily life. He also started meditating regularly, trying to access that space again. Sometimes he could feel it, a distant echo of the nursery, a faint memory of the light and care. Other times, nothing came, but he kept trying, kept reaching, kept remembering. He also became more selective about who he spent time with. He had less tolerance for negative people, not because he judged them, but because he understood the importance of protecting his own energy. He had been shown something precious, something sacred, and he didn't want to let the darkness of the world make him forget. He surrounded himself with people who lifted him up, who believed in growth, who treated others with kindness, who were on their own conscious journeys. Those relationships deepened, became more real, more meaningful. His spiritual practice evolved, too. He had never been particularly religious, had never felt connected to any specific tradition or belief system, but now he felt connected to something bigger, something beyond words or doctrines. He felt connected to Source, to the creative force that made souls, that made everything. He didn't need churches or rituals. He just needed to close his eyes and remember where he came from, remember that he was an expression of the divine, remember that he was loved. Years passed. The intensity of the memory faded as Dr. Patricia had predicted. The crystal clear images became softer. The profound knowing became more subtle, but it never disappeared completely. It lived in him like a foundation, like bedrock, like something he could always return to when he needed grounding. And he did return to it, often, especially during difficult times, when life felt hard, when he questioned his purpose, when he felt alone or lost or overwhelmed. He would stop, close his eyes, breathe, and remember the nursery, remember the souls being formed, remember the elders caring for them with such patience and love, remember that he had once been one of those fragile new souls, and look how far he had come, look how much he had grown, look how much he had learned. He also started recognizing the young souls around him, people who seemed new to existence, who made simple mistakes, who struggled with basic concepts, who seemed confused by the complexities of human life. Instead of judging them or getting frustrated, he felt compassion. They were learning, they were growing, they were doing their best with the level of awareness they had, just like everyone else, just like him. He remembered being in the nursery, being new, being fragile, needing care and patience, and he tried to offer that same care and patience to the young souls he encountered. He also started recognizing the old souls, people who carried wisdom in their eyes, who seemed to understand things without being told, who moved through life with a certain grace and acceptance. He felt drawn to them, wanted to learn from them, wanted to hear their stories. And when he met them, when he really connected with them, there was often a moment of recognition, a knowing, a sense that they had both seen similar truths, that they were fellow travelers on the path, that they understood. Looking back on his life before the regression, the man could barely recognize himself. He had been so lost, so angry, so convinced that life was meaningless and he was worthless. He had been days away from giving up completely, from ending his life, from deciding that existence wasn't worth the pain. And then he had stumbled into Dr. Patricia's office, had decided to try one last thing, had allowed himself to be guided into regression, and his life had changed completely. Not because his circumstances changed, but because his understanding changed. His perspective shifted, his awareness expanded. He saw himself and everyone around him through new eyes, eyes that had witnessed the nursery, eyes that understood the sacred nature of all consciousness. And looking forward, the man felt different about his future. He didn't know what would happen, didn't know how long this life would last, or what challenges he would face, but he knew he could handle it, because he knew he mattered, because he knew he was loved, because he knew he was on a journey that was much bigger than this one lifetime. He knew that when this life ended, he would return to the space between lives, would reunite with his soul group, would process everything he learned, would rest and heal and prepare for the next phase. And maybe, if he was lucky, he would get to visit the nursery again, get to see the new souls being formed, get to witness that miracle of creation one more time. But for now, in this life, in this body, in this moment, he had work to do, lessons to learn, growth to achieve, people to connect with, love to give and receive. He had been given a gift, the gift of remembering, the gift of knowing, the gift of understanding that every soul is precious, and he would honor that gift by living from that truth, by treating himself with love, by treating others with compassion, by remembering that everyone, no matter how difficult or confused or lost, had once been in that nursery, had once been a brand new soul being cared for by ancient wise beings, had once been fragile and precious and full of potential. The man who saw the soul nursery lived the rest of his life with that knowing in his heart. And when people asked him why he seemed so peaceful, why he seemed so certain, why he seemed so kind even to people who didn't deserve it, he would smile. Sometimes he would share his story. Sometimes he would just say that he had learned something important about the nature of existence. And for the people who were ready to hear it, who were searching for their own proof that they mattered, that was enough. That was the invitation. That was the reminder that they too could access these memories. They too could remember where they came from. They too could know with absolute certainty that they were created with love and intention, and that they would never stop mattering no matter how long their journey lasted or how many lifetimes it took them to fully evolve. Subscribe to witness more journeys between lives.